I'm now going to introduce Dr. John Thompson, who is the founder and CEO of Extract Lab. And he's going to be presenting today on what is the endocannabinoid system. And from one medical professional to another medical professional, I think this topic is extremely important. And I still joke around because back in 1998, when I looked at my anatomy and pathology book, I saw there highlighted the endocannabinoid system. I can see Dr. John Thompson already in the corner of my screen laughing when I say that as well too. So Dr. John Thompson, optimizing global success in cannabis. Dr. John Thompson is a separation scientist, entrepreneur, but also an inventor. As a CEO that is also a scientist, he brings a unique analytical perspective to everything that he does. Whether it's inventing new technology or building a business, he has a strong technical background in analytical instrumentation, biotech, mining, and homeland security markets. During his cannabis career, Dr. Thompson has a strong record of helping companies set up hemp, adult use, and medical cannabis extraction and processing facilities. Dr. Thompson has assisted in hundreds of companies to attain their goals in cannabis and hemp extraction and manufacturing, as well as a market development, strategic marketing, and worldwide business-to-business alliance formation. But he also does international markets too. And for everyone on this event today, pay attention. It's really important to be able to do work both domestically and internationally. Dr. Thompson has received a Bachelor's of Science degree in biochemistry, has received a Master's of Science degree in chemistry, and a Doctor of Chemistry degree, all from the University of Minnesota. Dr. Thompson, thank you for being here today. The floor is yours.
I'm going to unmute here. How you guys doing? Good to see you all. There's a small echo here. Let me just kind of make that happen. Okay, I think we're all set. So, all right. Welcome to everybody here. Appreciate you joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about optimizing your investment, optimizing your business for investment. We're going to be talking a little bit about, my experience and where we really have invested in the cannabis space, and maybe it'll be somewhat of an inspiration to you guys. One thing about this market that's so great is there's so much opportunities for everybody. You're talking about a market that's growing at 20% compound annual growth rate plus. There are any number of ways to make money. And I've already reviewed some of the details from some of the presenting companies. I'm very interested to hear more from the owners and the founders of those companies. Just exciting amounts of work. And what we do, we actually have put hundreds and hundreds of people into the business of either hemp processing or hemp or cannabis processing, and has spent a lot of time dealing with those types of customers, getting them up and running from basically starting with nothing, whether it be a farmer or a or a processor, whether they're a GMP provider or not. We've literally put hundreds of people in the business. As a consequence of that, we have spent a lot of time reviewing their business plans. We've learned a lot about how to help them along. Sometimes talk them out of doing the business altogether because they just weren't ready, or they just didn't have the right business plan associated with it. So I'm just going to, first of all, give you a background on my business. I'm in the ancillary business. And let me kind of just pull up a presentation here. Okay, there we are. So the title of the talk is really optimizing your business, or optimizing your investment, or optimizing your investment portfolio for success. I'm going to speak to all three of those topics, in fact. And one of the interesting things when I was in 2014, when I first gave my first pitch to some investors, I really started talking about selling picks and shovels to the people who are going to be building the industry. And, it was at the time, it was a 15-minute presentation. It was really quick. And we started our ancillary business, basically focused on equipment, supplies, consulting, and consumables for the botanical extracts market. I'm going to go over with you what our successes were there. I'm going to talk about some of the profitable sectors within that ancillary market. Also, our views on market trends, what we see in the market taking place. And then I'll give you some 3 keys for optimizing your investment, along with some recommended resources that we'll plug for you there. So what is it that we do? A lot of companies are out there. They're looking for ways to make their business model work. What we do is we enable companies to really purify and produce active ingredients. And those can be botanical active ingredients. They can be pharmaceutical active ingredients. And a lot of times the customers that we deal with, they don't really have, some of them have the technical background, some of them do not. Some of them have the business background. And sometimes we can put technical and business people together to really make it work for them. So we enable in unique combinations of aromas and flavors with our technology. We apply technology, and we're able to, for example, enable the formulations and proprietary blends that people then bring out into the marketplace. We enable derivatives and purified extracts. And here are just some examples, aloe vera, mint, botrytis, arnica flower, and many, many others, really botanical extracts that are used in some sort of medicinal compounds or phytonutrients or phyto ingredients that are then brought out into the marketplace. And what's wonderful about this is that we do this from an equipment, consulting, and consumable standpoint. And that's how we really serve the market. So we're really there to apply science. That's been the very foundation of our company. And by the way, it should be the foundation of your company as well. You want to make sure that you are applying the right science in the right place in the right time. So when you're thinking about how you're going to really conduct your business, science is the #1 thing. And what that will allow you to do is create proprietary solutions, proprietary mixes, proprietary designs that then go out into the marketplace. People pay for proprietary things, whether that be on a unique design or a unique formula. They want something that's unique. They don't want something like everybody else is doing. So here's just an example of some of the brands that we've put out in the past couple of years. And we started originally with our flagship Extract Lab brand. That's our extractor brand. And since that time, we put out many different equipment brands and also consumables. We have software in there, like I said, medical packaging and drug delivery, also with, from the standpoint of, consulting, getting people up and running on their GMP protocols. And these are things that are required by compliancy markets. So, we really help people, succeed. We've done a lot in terms of making sure that we invest in the science. From those of you who are out there just starting your companies, if you're starting from an engineering background, you want to make sure you have that science down, but then make investments in the business side, and vice versa. If you're a scientist, startup type of person, and you feel that you're going to go out to market, you really need to have that business background or a business partner there to really focus on, for example, raising money, or focus on the financials. You're going to need audited financials if you really want to go public or anything like that. So these are the things that those people are going to help you to do. So like I said, we've been very, very successful. We're probably one of the very few ancillary companies that are out there that are actually profitable. For example, we drove almost 7 million to the bottom line here in the trailing months. These are some of the awards that we have on the very bottom. We have achieved 204 on the Inc. 5000 list with a 2,140% growth. And you can see we've been building up really slowly. It took a lot of work to do that. I know you guys who are just starting your companies, you're just starting them, and we bootstrapped this whole thing. Very, very difficult to do. Always clamoring for cash, for working capital. When you're growing that much, how do you really make that work? So something you need to think about is making sure that you have enough working capital so that you can actually deliver the products that you are about to, deliver to the rest of the world. It's important also that along the way you make investments in certifications, and whether or not that's a certification for, say, a child-proof packaging certification. If you're in the consumer side, a clean label is a really big deal these days. Consumers are demanding, higher, cleaner ingredients, higher quality ingredients that are naturally derived. Obtaining organic certifications. These are the things that your customers are going to like. And in turn, they're going to reward you with more sales, which always is going to drive more to the bottom line. Here's an example. We actually operate in 2 different facilities that are about 10 miles away from each other. We have a large manufacturing facility. It's a welding shop, and we have a whole bunch of certifications, ISO 9000 certification. But one of the things that really makes us unique among other companies is that we have a 68,000 actually operating GMP certified application center. That's really interesting because we have a full-on laboratory. Our customers can come here and they can see it. And anybody listening to this who wants to learn about how processing really takes place, you're welcome to come and visit us and look at our materials that we have on the web. We have a tremendous amount of learning materials, including mini courses. So I wanted to kind of go over how I really look at the ancillary market. Back when I was working for corporate America, we would always make these, what we called strategy maps. It was kind of a big thing back then in the 90s. And really what you would do is you would lay out a process, and then you would look where you're playing, and then you'd look upstream and downstream, and that would allow you to either formulate an acquisition strategy or formulate a product strategy or something like that, so that you can acquire in the proper amounts in the proper places. And what you see on the map here is how we typically look at the botanical extracts market. You can see here where we're really not looking at the growing side at all, but we look at how the products are made once the biomass is grown. And when I say biomass, I'm not talking only about cannabis. I'm not talking only about hemp. That's very limiting to a marketplace. You need to think about the total biosphere, if you will, because there's a lot of different compounds, botanicals that have an effect actually on the endocannabinoid system. And you can use those in their botanical extracts that have nothing to do with hemp, for example, or even have nothing to do with cannabis. So open your mind on your target market. But we're in this picks and shovels, and you can see that means lab services, lab equipment, excipients, packaging, manufacturing equipment. You can see that as you go through this process, you can see that there's potency testing. That's where all the quality equipment is. You can imagine there's lots of consumables associated with that. If you go all the way to the bottom with the end products, that's where you're talking about, that's where all the excipients are. That's where all the packaging is. That's where all of the brands are really sitting there in that end products world. And that's where, that can also be a very lucrative area to play. If you're actually producing the packaging yourself, as opposed to just distributing it. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of different ways. We operate in pre-processing, extraction, post-processing, and end products. So we've been building, we first started off with the extract lab extractor, which is right there in the middle. And then we went upstream and downstream. So, and interestingly enough, we're getting heavily into the end product side of this with medical packaging and medical formulations and unique excipients. So this is an example of, the typical process that someone would go through in an ancillary way. They'd want to move from the left hand to the right hand side into a higher degree of purity, potency, and identity. And you can see what we did and how we did it was we said, okay, we looked at the value chain and we said, okay, well, we're going to start here and then we're going to innovate upstream and downstream of that. I encourage you to, when you're making your presentations and your pitches to, when you have more time to go through it with an investor, it's always good to make up some sort of strategy map saying, hey, this is what the market really looks like. Here's where we're playing, and here's a picture of really what it looks like. So, like I was saying, when we doing that and following that strategy, along with a market strategy, which was focusing on botanicals, we really had a really great success. Right now, we're right around 25 million in sales. We have a very nice EBITDA, bottom line of about 7, and this year we'll be doing very, very well as well. This is some examples, some customers that we put together. You can see this. This is the people actually using, either consulting services that we have or buildings that we put together. It's really exciting to see it all come together. So let me give you some probably more unique aspects on what I see as the market trends. One of the things that we've seen from our customer base and from people who want to get in, the entrepreneurs, they're really looking at, the public and private bureaucracy in a lot of cases really circumvented the ability for them to access the market. That's from the SBA side, the DEA side, the FDA side, the national banks, and worse of all, the private, in other words, the private companies like Amazon, Facebook, Yahoo, Google, Bing. It's very difficult for them to, for example, take a hemp product or a cannabis product. They can't really advertise. So they're really spending a lot of time struggling against the entire machinery, the bureaucracy against them. So that really is not changed. And ostensibly, they're saying that that's going to change. So when that does happen, we ought to see an explosion of, first of all, not only marketing of people who are waiting in the sidelines, but also just an explosion in terms of the packaging and all of the ancillary businesses going way up. So banking reform is number one. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to give so ostensibly access to capital markets from a lot of our customers. They're really not able to access them. And it possibly will end that internal bureaucratic war on the legal hemp and marijuana markets, which would be really great. It would enable that. So the law which took and enabled freedom within the market, the bureaucracy basically took away. So we really like to see that kind of regulation relaxed. And then MJ reform will not change the laws in other countries. So that's something to note. Those of you who are investors and those of you who are investing, there still are other laws. For example, CBD, which is in the US, you can move it across state lines. It's not considered a pharmaceutical drug. In Canada, it's still considered a pharmaceutical drug. In Europe, we have novel food regulations that are taking place. And there's, depending on the company that you're dealing with, there's lots of different types of regulations. So you need to be cognizant and aware of that as you make up your business plans. But the fundamentals of the market are still there. They're still looking at pretty good market growth, which is really great. You still have the main drivers as I see them. One of the things that people really use, like the endocannabinoid botanical systems for, is to reduce or eliminate maybe opioids for pain purposes. So that's something that is a key driver in the marketplace, I think, and a key adoption driver. Increased demand for natural ingredients is more of a general thing. Clean label. When you get to the point where you can sell to, for example, Whole Foods or a Kroger's grocery or whatever, they're going to be putting clean label requirements on you and things like that. And then still yet, there's lots of fragmentation in the market. Everybody knows this. They see it. A lot of small players. It's regulated, and oftentimes the regulations are insurmountable. It's also fast moving. So one of those things where, if you have products that you can really look at over time, it's pretty good to continuously put out new products, especially on a consumer side. So just to go over this very quickly, growers, processors, manufacturers, and brands, you got to understand where you sit in that eco space, where you sit. These are our customers, but from the standpoint of looking at who your customers are, you really got to know your customers. So let me talk a little bit about what the profitable sectors are in the ancillary equipment. The first one is proprietary equipment. If you look at some of the equipment purveyors that are out there that are servicing the extractor and also the ancillary equipment markets, they're pretty profitable. They have good margins. They have great EBITDAs. And so they're not really pulling a lot of negative EBITDA numbers. A lot of them are private. For example, the second one would be the laboratory and GMP services market. Those are the laboratory services market. Those are typically pretty profitable. It's a fee for service type of work. There's lots of labs that have been popping up in this industry. Some of them good, some of them not so good. But it's important to know that those laboratories and those services, since they're required and needed, with the right marketing plan, they really can be very profitable. We have a laboratory here. We don't do other people's samples with it, but it's very important that you have as a part of your workflow. For example, if you're running a manufacturing facility, that you have those quality control, quality assurance aspects to your business. So, and then unique and proprietary packaging focused on compliancy and fashion. Okay, so this is something where distributor models for packaging and things like that, they're typically very low margin. But if you can, for example, make your own packaging with your own molds and make those very fashionable so that they become something where you're talking about better margins, like a 40, 50, even 50% gross margin, then you really have a good business. So there's lots of opportunities for that, and I think that you'll be seeing a lot more unique packaging. People who are going to invest in tooling and things like that to really produce some even medical grade packaging. So that's all in store. So I'm just going to give you a couple keys for investment in your company. This is for investors and for those who are, trying to get people to invest in the company. Just some 3 keys from everybody that I talk to. Maximize the liquidity of your investment. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to talk just slightly about debt, and then for criteria that we use to assess a client's business plan. It's really important that when you raise money, you have liquidity in mind. Your investor is going to want to have he's going to want to understand where his exit money is going to come from. Where is he going to make money in the situation? Couple ways to do that. You can just, for example, sell him the majority control, and then he can decide whatever he wants to do with it. He can take it public. He can, decide what he wants to do with the EBITDA that's generated from sales. So that is one way to do it. And you're there. You'll obviously be a minority shareholder, but that is actually a very good way to do it. Cash is still king in every business. Always has been that way through all of millennia. And so oftentimes, if you can get someone to take your business over and you can work for them, that's probably a really good option. And then also preferential payout on earnings. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. Most investors, from what I know, don't buy that because there's always a need for EBIT. And there's always a need for more working capital. So it turns out that, EBIT is not really distributed, or, the distributions are very few and far between. So the investor is not too keen on that typically. The other way to do it is to engage in a registered or unregistered public offering that results in freely traded shares. Something that we are looking at for our company very closely is the Regulation A. This is for companies that are maybe in the 20 to maybe 10 to $20 million. They're looking to really grow out. You can have a public offering of 20 to 75 million, depending on the tier. It's fully tradable shares upon closing. They're exempt from regulation or registration, excuse me. So lots of really great benefits. I think that you can talk to your investment advisor and really understand, hey, what are the different options for for a public offering. It's not just an IPO. There's ways you can do it by combining an RTO and this Regulation A, and really doing a great job at going and looking at the market. So one of the interesting things about this particular regulation is that you're able to test the waters with offerings ahead of time with those who will listen. So you can kind of pre-test the waters without having to, be really restricted in what you say. A lot of times in a typical IPO, you would have a very restricted amount of time. So also it allows you to crowdfund. So there's other pipe, Reg D, Reg S, SPAC, IPO. Just suffice it to say that there's a lot of really good options for you guys. You should talk to an investment advisor. If you have, especially if you have sales with EBIT, which means profit, a profitable sales. If you have target acquisitions, if you have an aggressive growth plan, if you have ongoing need for capital, these are all reasons why you would want to consider going public. So now I'm just going to talk quickly about debt. Every person that you talk to is going to.
You got about 45 seconds left, Dr. Thompson.
45 seconds.
Yep.
Okay. So every person that you're going to talk to about debt, you've got a really an important thing there to look at. So banking is not really a viable option for marijuana companies. Banks often confuse MJ with hemp, so keep that in mind. A lot of times people have a hard time getting debt for their companies, and PPP loans are a unique investment risk now, unfortunately. So anybody who's received a PPP loan, that's a real issue. So think about that when you're talking about it. So to close up here, there are a couple qualifications that we use, typical qualification questions that we use to determine if your business plan is viable. Do you have assets? Do you have a license? And most importantly, where are your customers? You should identify those up ahead of time. And do you have money for working capital? So also today is in a kind of very distressed environment in terms of companies that are out on the marketplace. So people are looking around for deals. They're going to lowball your company probably on valuation. And if you did well in 2020, they're going to discount that. If you did do so well, they want to count that. So my advice is don't waste a lot of time with national banks either, because you're going to have a lot of problems. They're not going to fund you probably. So there's a lot of brokers and people out there that are saying that they can do it, but it's very, very difficult to do. So that having been said, here's some resources for you guys. If you want to learn more about, the marketplace, we have a tremendous amount of mini courses and guides and calculators and podcasts. I hope you guys found it interesting. And thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thompson. Very, very informative. One thing I always recommend, Dr. Thompson, after you're done talking, you can just put your key contact information or your LinkedIn, whatever the best way to contact you in the chat room. That'd be great for everyone here listening. And Dr. Thompson has some really great points with investors and some really great points also with exit strategies. Definitely a ball of knowledge. So thank you again. I really do appreciate that. Our next speaker is going to be talking about what is the outlook for raising capital in 2021. And the person that's going to be leading that discussion is going to be Matt Norgren. And Matt has a very great and unique background. I'm very proud to say I've been an investor judge with Matt Norgren several times. I've actually met with other people that he's actually mentored as well too in the industry. So Matt is really someone that you really want to pay attention to. So with that being said, Matt Norgren is actually currently the CEO and co-founder of Arcadian Fund and Arcadian Capital Management, which is a venture capital / private equity strategy focused on ancillary services, providing companies in and around cannabis and the hemp industry. Some unique facts about Matt is he actually received his education from the University of Texas in Austin. He also played football at the University of Texas for the Texas Longhorns, and he was a quarterback on the national championship winning team. And what's really cool and unique about Matt is that he was able to actually take a lot of those skills that he learned and developed while at the University of Texas, and he was able to implement that throughout his lifetime and also into his core business philosophies. While playing football on a scholarship at the University of Texas, Matt, he's also a very smart man too. He not only graduated with one, but with 2 degrees within 4 years, and was also accepted into and pursued a master's degree at the University of Texas. Matt had the pleasure and the honor to actually play professionally for the Detroit Lions, as well as the Philadelphia Eagles, which is part of the National Football League. Mr. Norgren went on to earn a dual master's degree in both business administration and sports management from the University of Dallas. From his time doing that, Matt was featured on the Bravo TV show Most Eligible Dallas. If you remember that TV show, Matt was on that. And while
Nobody
that happened,
saw
he actually,
that, David.
well, you don't go that part. You know what? You throw it in there, but Matt, let me just give you let me give you this last paragraph because I don't want to underestimate you. The most important thing is that Matt has been appointed to many executive leadership positions with a wide-ranging group of companies and industries, from real estate to sports entertainment, from hospitality to insurance and financial services. Matt truly is a pioneer and is a unique leader in emerging industries to later stage leverage buyouts. He's really focused on finding synergistic opportunities in early stage private growth rounds that have upside potential. Everyone, as someone who I've learned always something from Matt each time I hear him speak, thank you for being here today. The floor is yours, sir.
Well, hey, thanks, David. Hang around too, man. We can talk through things you think are important. It seems like a lot of folks are on here, so really glad to have the opportunity to share some of our thoughts. That introduction makes you feel old, but those of us in the cannabis industry, I think, but you hear people talk about it like dog years. It feels like 7 years per year, and just because of all the things that happen and how quickly things change. And for those of you and those of us that can solve that problem and continue to pivot and grow with it, you're able to build a real nice barrier to entry, because those institutionals that are starting to look at this today, and let me just tell you, the conversation has changed. It's changed definitely. It definitely changed after January 6th. And then in the South, they needed to see a little more. And after Biden took office, it was apparent to the institutionals. The conversation changed. We had been fighting that battle for many, many, many years. The reason we built Arcadian the way we did, was to essentially be able to call it an Andreessen Horowitz of the botanical wellness space. But ultimately, that to break down glass ceilings and open up the industry's resources to these large institutionals, you have to check a certain amount of boxes. And, we really wanted to keep our eyes focused on the ancillary market, because we know that if you can prove performance and build multiple funds and have exits, that there is, if timed right, the ability maybe to access institutional capital that is very, very, very large. And frankly, we feel like we have a responsibility to the industry to do that. And we're only as good as the companies that we invest in are. And so, fortunately, these companies are really good right now. 62% growth last year. Are you kidding me? This is, people keep asking all these questions. What's going to be driving the market? Safe Banking Act now, and this and that. And how about quarterly earnings? Okay, and those aren't going to stop. And now Mexico's in fully, and a lot to tell you about there. Can't go into great detail, but some really exciting things are happening in that market. And so, potentially with, I don't know, you could argue we're still in a bull market. I mean, even through coronavirus, to be frank, is there a bear to come? I don't know. It's the longest cycle ever, probably. Can interest rates be like this always? I don't know. Are tech companies a little bit overvalued? I mean, if you take the top 5 to 7 companies out of the equation last year, the FANG stocks, most people's, the major allocators' returns are more like 7%, just with 5 or 7 companies taken out. And then if you go a little deeper and take the top 30 companies out from a return standpoint last year, most allocators on average are going to be in the negative. And so there really is a bear there. And these top 7 companies can't quite possibly do what it looks like. And so I think when you see markets start to change, on top of the fact that cannabis is this commodity-like industry that has tech and biotech type returns. I mean, how often does that happen? The cash that these large, multi-state operators are generating, the companies that service them, the strength of this category and servicing this category, the complexity of it, the barrier to entry that we talked about earlier. It's just getting really exciting.
So Matt, let me ask you a question, just because it's really hot for the last few days, and you may not have an answer, but I think a lot of people want to hear your response. So for the outlook for raising capital, what do you think the effect of the PACT Act is going to have on the industry? And for those that aren't familiar, the PACT Act is the one saying that the United States Postal Service can't send anything in the mail with the vaporizer products, e-cigs, and it has some people concerned about that. And there's still a lot of gray area, and I know it's very raw, Matt, but as someone who invests, as someone myself who invests, how do you think that's going to really change the outlook for the next maybe 3 to 6 months with that?
Yeah, see, the trend is so big, though. Think about the cannabis industry is probably the greatest opportunity in the history of consumer ingredients. Potentially, it's the most dynamic, the most complex, and at the molecular level, the most interesting. For what human beings need at the cellular level. So, I could argue that if you think about the direction this industry is moving, and you look at GW Pharma with just a few FDA-approved drugs, sell themselves for what, $7.7 billion to Jazz Pharmaceuticals the other day. If you've got biotech IP and you're in phase 2 clinical work and getting into phase 3, and you're about to come and replace opioids, there is a part of this industry as an ingredient set that is so big happening that does it matter if the Postal Service can't send vape pens? I mean, there's so many tailwinds and so many categories. Can we, be better served to understand some of the things and the road bumps that'll happen? Yeah. And for the last 10 years, we've all been doing this. They continue to come, but we just keep going right over them. And it's because it's so strong in so many areas. The byproducts from hemp, a half a Home Depot in 10 years will probably be hemp fiber somewhere. So do they care about it? All these things are important, but what we have to understand is the big picture. And the big picture is so strong. As long as, particularly with the change in the markets may happen ahead, this industry is going to become increasingly more interesting. For allocators that are trying to balance a portfolio in that environment, looking into their alternatives, generating some extra yield. So we can, let's stay focused on the big picture, but obviously the little things are going to be issues we're going to have to deal with.
And I appreciate you saying that, Matt. We've been telling our own clients and our own investors to calm down and remember the bigger picture. And, the ball's rolling and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And even if, as you just said too, it's about the bigger picture and looking past the hood of the car. So I really appreciate you saying that. So thank you. Still there, Matt?
Yeah, I was here. I was seeing if you were going to throw a direction.
Oh,
come on, man.
No, I was just saying that I think it was just really good that you brought that part about the pack, about the bigger picture.
So what's important for the crowd? I see friends here, John and.
So I think for the crowd is this, and I think what most people looking at the questions is the following: you as an investor, and you think about the bigger picture. What are the top 2 or 3 items or objective points a company should think about before approaching an investor?
Well, first and foremost, try to understand who it is you're talking to. Nothing drives an investor more crazy than if you figure out how to get into a conversation about, educating an investor on the story, and then only to realize that you don't even come close to meeting the mandates of what they're trying to do. Instead, it's hard enough to get that call. So make sure when you get on the phone and you're having conversations with people that could provide you resources, that you do is as good a job as you can to understand who they are, what position they may be in, so that will give you an advantage, because then you can speak to the most likely scenario for you guys to align. If this is a late stage growth equity investor, for example, I mean, you're looking them up and you can get information to see they're doing these big, late stage equity deals. Then you go into the conversation, say, hey, I'm glad to be on the phone with you. From what I can tell, we might be a little bit early, but maybe not. I mean, maybe you, but we love the type of stuff you're doing. We see this deal that you did. What were you thinking there? And then here's how we fit in and so I think that's something that I really want to make an emphasis on, is just doing the extra work. We do that as, fund managers. We have to have an investments team that takes these things in and gets the information in front of us, so we can be clearly, following protocols, but understanding like how we can bring value. What's this conversation about? Because we just don't get on the phone. Preparation. So you asked for three things: preparation, execution, integrity. You got to prepare for anything in life. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, if you want to achieve something, you don't just start, you have to prepare. And so preparation is one, and then execution. I mean, you've got to see things through all the way to the end. And then I think the one that a lot of people don't talk about, but something we look for, and there's ways of doing it, but integrity, because it's just not worth doing business with people that, are going to make things not fun, because this is so much fun. We'd rather not do business and make money with someone. There's too many places to make that happen now. And so integrity.
And I'm really happy you said integrity, because everyone here listening, especially if you're new to the industry, is that this industry is small. And someone like Matt, who's been in for a while, you mentioned like the dog years, and it seems like we've been in for a very long time, is that if you don't have that good business ethics, you don't have that right integrity, people are not going to want to work with you, and that will spread around. And a great example is there's a deal that was brought to us that was turned on by two other people, and we already knew about it ahead of time because of a pain, and how much of a pain in the butt they were, and how they really didn't have good business ethics. And I'll take another step on what Matt said. And Matt, I'd love to hear your feedback on this. And we have about 8 minutes left. You talked about preparation. You talked about how, hey, you're not going to get on the phone right away. So in your opinion, would you recommend people having like a one-page executive summary or like a one-page teaser to send that out to people to look at first, to even draw interest first? Or
yeah, I think so, because like anything in life, the more you only say what needs to be said means that you are listening more and you're receiving more data. And so in an emerging industry, a manager is, if he's doing it right, and I can just tell you how we think, and by the way, there are 10 or 15 or 20 really great funds in this space, and this is how we all think, and that's to say that you want to have an insatiable appetite for information. And so we want to see everything in the industry, because it allows us to help put the industry together. I mean, we're all interested in this whole thing working, and particularly being ahead of regulators, such that we have this thing tied up and we have strength in the way that it needs to benefit the people that got it here. So give us a one pager, because we as managers we're not trying to say no. In a lot of industries, if you get to some place that's an investor, the first step is going to be with somebody whose job is to say no. If you even get a response, they're just
so well said.
Right. But I think in our industry, it's a little bit different. My team, I can promise you, we want to chew on every single piece of data that we can. It doesn't matter what it is. And so, not to leverage companies against each other. I mean, look, for example, we're investors in BDS Analytics and Headset. The fact that you can invest in the two leading data companies in the space speaks to your character. They understand that we use information properly and only for the benefit of everybody. And so, if you give us just the information that we need, okay, we want to understand the business. And we're thinking about it, how does this whole thing work together? How does our ecosystem of companies benefit your business. It's for us to understand you more concisely. And so I think just don't be afraid to be whoever you are. There's only upside. So just be the business you are, present, the information in a very concise way, because we actually in this space really want to see it all. But it's sometimes discouraging when things come in and people are trying to be overly salesy and you can't really see what's what, and they're just trying to get on a call, and you're like, friend, I do want to get on a call, trust me, we do, but can we be a little smarter about the business before we get on a call? It's just better for everybody. It's so busy, let's be efficient. So yes, just get us, break it down and take steps with
it's
us.
so well said. And not to date myself, we tell our clients, it's like the old song by CNC Music Factory, things that make you go, Your one-page teaser should say to someone like us, this looks interesting. Okay, I want to learn more. I want to know more. And I think you really hit the nail on the head. And Matt, we have 2 minutes left. So the floor is yours for the next 2 minutes. What message would you like to give the audience here today?
Wow, that's a tough, I guess, strength in numbers, because we're heading into this inflection point where, by midterms 2022, it ought to be very interesting, right? Because you need 60 votes in Senate right now. You definitely want to have the visibility to get something on Biden's desk, before going into the midterms, understanding, okay, what states are important, by the way, because those state senators, depending on what they run on, then if that state, is a positive state, whether Republican or Democrat, it comes with 2 votes, okay, in the Senate. So every state is equally important as the next because of those Senate votes. And we think there's a lot bigger issues, okay, that are going on over the next year and a half. And this is a bipartisan issue in comparison to others. And so I think you're going to see both sides come to some agreements going into midterms. It's a popular topic for, raising capital and getting votes in every state pretty much. And so you'll see more people run on that didn't have to in the last election cycle. So we think after midterms, there's a really good chance that some big things happen there. In advance of that, banking will probably happen, some other things, including quarterly earnings. And so I think the reason I tell you that is because it's time for us to be thinking work together.
Yep.
It's like if you watched Game of Thrones or something, it's like the Night Walkers are coming. Okay, it's inevitable. And if you don't all come together as kingdoms, it'll be much more difficult. But together, it's a great victory, and I hope that Arcadian can be a part of that. Visit our website. Hope we can talk to you soon. But God bless you.
You know what, Matt? Your timing was perfect. You ended right on time. Thank you so much, everyone. If you have any other questions, please reach out to Matt directly. Please, he'll put his contact information in there. Also, to really pay attention to what he said. You need to prepare ahead of time. Okay, work on that one-page executive summary, because I'll tell you right now, if you have that one-page executive summary, you're going to open up a lot more doors than sending out your 30 or 40-page pitch deck. Because myself, I'm sure Matt and other investors here and from other funds will get sent all these decks, and we're like, it's 30 pages. Just give me the one-page summary. Let's make this more simplistic. So Matt, once again, thank you so much. Also, for all the panelists, please make sure you look at the Q&A in case there's any questions for you. Once again, Matt Norgren of Arcadian Capital, and we are going to move on to our next panelist. Thanks again, Matt. Really do appreciate it. So our next panel topic is, what role does security compliance play in having Wall Street invest in cannabis? And I'm very proud to say that a friend of mine, John Nemanik, who is a partner in Green Coast Capital, will actually be moderating this. And before I do John's intro, John, hola, ¿cómo está? I
Muy
believe.
bien, gracias a usted.
Bien, gracias, mi amigo, gracias. So John does a lot of work down in South America, specifically Colombia. John's a partner in Green Coast Capital Investments. Green Coast is an international investor providing flexible and innovative financing to the small cap and micro cap marketplace in a variety of sectors. His team consists of experts in capital markets making quick decisions to provide growth capital to issuers. John is a serial entrepreneur and an investor. He was a co-founder, chairman, and CEO of three, I repeat, three very successful internet startups. The first one was in 2006. We raised over 29 million and then sold it to Deluxe Communications for over 124 million. He also had a couple other groups, which he sat here and was able to sit here and increase their market cap to over $600 million. And in 1999, his internet direct company was merged with Look Communications for a deemed value of $560 million. So everyone paying attention, John's the real deal. He knows what he's doing. His current interests are medical cannabis, cultivation, hemp, CBD startups with a focus, and I repeat, a focus in Colombia. He's married to Dr. Sandra Carrillo, a leading expert in cannabis for clinical applications, and was appointed the clinical professor in charge of the scientific program for cannabis research and education for the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Panama. John manages Panamanian and Colombian-based companies. He's a former member of EO Panama and has extensive contacts within Panama. He was also a former member of EO in Toronto. And right now, he's really looking for high return opportunities to invest in to serve as a director for high quality cannabis related firms. Everyone, John is an entrepreneur, an investor, both domestically and internationally, and he understands the medical component to this side of the medicine as well too. John, thank you for moderating today's panel. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Dave, for a most wonderful introduction. I think I should leave now on this high note. I mean, it's not going to get any better. Anyways, I never cease to be impressed by the quality of the speakers. John Thompson, Matthew Norgren, thank you for your insights. It's extremely valuable. And Matt, in particular, your commentary reminds me of many years past when I worked as a manager at the Bank of Nova Scotia mid-market accounts. When it came to granting loans, we had two questions. What do they want? And how can we say no? Needless to say, I got sick of being in banking after a couple of years, but it was a great experience. Anyways, I'd like to start by introducing Ted Bernhardt, Managing Director, Cultiva Law, and Kevin Albert, Independent Director, NorCal Cannabis Company. Ted, please give us a 1 to 2 minute introduction. Ted, take it away.
Yep. Thanks for the intro. It's an honor to be on the panel here today. My name is Ted Bernhardt. I'm the managing partner for Cultiva Law. We are a cannabis dedicated business and finance law firm that is based on the entire West Coast of the United States here. We have offices in Seattle, Portland, where I'm based, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, and are gradually expanding eastward. And so our firm is focused on helping entrepreneurs raise capital and get into the industry and structure their transactions in a legally compliant manner. My background is I've been doing this since since about 2015. Before that, I was in the technology spaces and energy spaces, and I actually acted as a general partner of 4 different venture capital funds before I started practicing law. So anyway, it's an honor to be here, and thanks for the introduction.
You know, I Googled your bio, and you were Portland's Business Journal 40 Under 40 Award, given the most accomplished, influential, and civic-minded executives in Portland. Just want to say, good for you. And you know what? You have the type of bio we could spend 20 minutes just discussing your accomplishments.
That's really nice of you to say. Yeah, it's an honor.
It's just the truth. So on to Kevin Albert. Kevin, please give us a 1 to 2 minute introduction.
Sure. Thank you, John. And I'd like to find out how you guys got those screensavers behind you. All I have is a picture of people laying on a beach somewhere. So my name is Kevin Albert, and I guess I have a very institutional background, so it's probably quite appropriate for this panel. I spent the first 24 years of my career as a banker at Merrill Lynch. And for most of that time, I ran the private placement group, which both raised funds for private equity firms, general purpose private equity firms, and it raised money for emerging growth companies like the companies in this industry, albeit bigger size deals than many of the placements that get done in this industry. I then subsequently, after leaving Merrill Lynch, I worked for 2 private equity firms, and I retired in December 2019, just in time to be locked down and stuck at home during COVID. I started investing in this industry in 2016 on a personal basis, both because of the dynamics of the industry and because, you know, I know my limitations, and I'm not ever going to be a successful venture investor in healthcare or AI or any of these highly technical things. But this is basically a consumer industry. I'm a consumer. I know what I like. I can make assessments as to what other people like. And, you know, it was sort of my view that by investing in this industry, you knew the product worked, you knew people would buy it, and the only question was the management teams and their ability to execute. And I think that sort of enters into this topic because it's really all about the management teams, both in terms of execution on the business plan, but also in terms of setting up compliant companies that have good corporate governance. And as in any emerging industry, that typically isn't the case in the very beginning. In the very beginning of any industry, but particularly this one, which was federally illegal, you find that many of the companies were founded in the early days by dreamers, by entrepreneurs, by people who had been black market cultivators or black market distributors. And they are probably the best people to have spawned these industries, but they're probably not the best people to get the attention of Wall Street ultimately. And because they don't have the background. It's not that they're not smart and capable, they just don't have the background of having, you know, come up the ranks. So that's my background. I'm on the board of 3 California companies currently, 1 public one, Harborside, and two private ones, Locana and NorCal, and I'm on the advisory board of one of the industry funds.
You know, again, I also Googled your background, Kevin, and I noticed, for example, that you're associated with Harborside. I actually participated in the most recent private placement with Harborside. Well done, good work, you know. So I just wanted to clear that if anybody sees that as a possible conflict of interest.
No, we're aligned. We're aligned.
Of course. You know, I mean, to be frank, for open disclosure, I'm probably I haven't counted recently, but probably at 8 different private placements just in my own personal accounts, plus what I'm doing also with Green Coast as well. So, anyways, gentlemen, I'd like to open up with the following questions, and we'll ask both of you. So I'm going to ask the question, and both of you, I'd like you to provide your perspective on this. And you know, Kevin, you've already sort of segued nicely into investing into the risks. And what I'd like to do is open with the following. So during my early forays into cannabis investing, I thought I understood regulatory risk, and I was wrong. I underestimated, for example, just how challenging it can be to stay on side. How do you manage regulatory risks as a director with the companies you're associated with? And tell us why it is so important, because I believe there are some people who are not familiar with what the challenges of regulatory risk are and how that can really, really put holes into their aspirations.
Which one? I don't want to
let me rephrase. What do you see as how do you manage regulatory risk? What do you do with your entities? Like you're sitting on the board of Harborside.
Yeah, so, okay. So in my opinion, well, first of all, as a director, you can't actually make it happen in the company because you're a director, you're not you're actually supposed to be supervising management as opposed to doing things yourself, because if you do them yourself, there's nobody overseeing you. And that's one principle of good corporate governance. So what is important for the directors to know is it's important for them to know the regulatory regime, what the key rules are, what the regulators are focused on, and then to employ good compliance people or a person, depending on the size of the company, and to ensure that that person, has a game plan for addressing those issues and does it, and to evaluate that on a semi-annual, a quarterly basis, sort of depends again on the size of the company. The best example of the downside of not doing that is a company called Lowell in California, which is a branded flower pre-roll company, which got caught, I think, about 18 months ago, operating out of an unlicensed facility. They were licensed. They had all the license they needed to do to prosecute their business, in general. But for some reason or other, they decided to cut a corner and operate out of an unlicensed facility for a period of time. And it went from being probably the hottest brand at that particular point in time to a company that became quickly distressed and just recently had to sell itself at a fraction of what its value was back at that particular period of time. Because who's going to invest? All of these companies need a continuing flow of capital to come in to grow. And who's going to put money into a company that has a breach like that when really most of the other companies don't? Most of the other companies are compliant. I mean, the regulatory aspects of this industry are very significant, and the regulators are very serious about it, because if the states don't do a good job, then the feds may come in. That basically the whole, I forget what the letter is called, but the letter that Obama had issued, which said hands off the states. It said hands off the states if they are doing a good job in terms of managing this industry.
Well said. And for all you would-be entrepreneurs out there who are serious about going in this sector, remember what he just said. Lowe's was extremely successful, and they literally watched their dreams, if you pardon the pun, go up in smoke. So now I'm going to go on to Ted Bernhardt, who is a securities attorney. And Ted, I'd like to ask you a similar question. What advice do you give your clients on how to manage the regulatory risk?
It's a great question, and I appreciate both of your insights on that. First of all, I think you're referring to the Cole memo, Kevin.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because my law practice and our firm, we work with people across the entire spectrum, from the very earliest stage to IPO and the latest stage. But I would say most of the people that first come to us are coming to us in the very early stages, and a lot of them are coming from basically the pre-legalization era, the medical industry, I'm not going to say the black or the gray market or whatever. So the first thing that I raise with people is, before I even get into the details of how regulated this is, what the specific regulations are that they have to comply with, I want them to understand that they need to commit to being regulatorily compliant, that this industry has sort of a Wild West cowboy, a reputation, history, or whatever. That's changing, and you have to change your business models and your compliance mentality in order to do that. So, the first thing I try and convince people of is that if you want to achieve the path to liquidity and the legitimacy of this market, you have to be aware that it's highly regulated and that you have to be committed to complying with those sorts of regulations. Then I sort of turn to talking to them about what the types of regulations are that they have to deal with. And you've got federal and state regulations. You've got people a lot of times don't realize that like things like securities laws apply to them here, and if you're raising money at the startup stage, just because it's from friends and family, you still have to be worried about all that sort of thing. So I kind of try and in the introductory sessions, I kind of try and flag issues and areas of compliance for them based on my experience with things that trip people up, and get them started to think about it. And then obviously I encourage them to keep a good dialogue going with me and their other professional service providers, and to recruit people who are familiar with these sorts of compliance risks, and really build out their team to come up with a regulatory compliance infrastructure that will help them. And then then we sort of dive into the specific details. And the last thing I will say is that I also very much try to give them a reality check that there are actual economic consequences to these regulations. It's not just about whether you go to jail or not. There's a lot of time and energy that you have to spend in complying with these various regulations, and to just be ready for that and build those into your financial models and your projections and your operating plans and all that sort of stuff. So it goes back to what you both were saying, sort of educating people about these risks early on before it becomes a problem, so that you're not trying to fix it in the future, but you're making them aware so that proactively they can deal with them. So that's kind of the approach I take generally.
Excellent. Thank you very much. You just shared some extremely valuable information for those who are paying attention. So that's great. So I'm going to bounce back to Kevin Albert. And Kevin, I'd like to ask, what in your view are the greatest opportunities in the cannabis space? And what do you see as the greatest challenges?
So I think we've largely moved through this sort of early entrepreneurial, start a new company from scratch, at least in the vanilla categories of like cultivation and manufacturing and retail, if you will, dispensaries. There's always going to be more opportunities, and certainly there are going to be new entrepreneurial opportunities in new states that are opening up. But in states like California or Washington or Colorado, I think there are probably enough platforms in that area. And so I think there are two kinds of opportunities. One are the more scientific opportunities, tissue culture, biotechnology, medicine, all of which start to exceed. I know I'm not going to be good at, so that's the kind of exposure I look to get in a fund. I can figure out if a dispensary platform is a good one, or a cultivation platform is a good one. I'm out in California right now. I visited 10 dispensaries and about 6 farms in the last 2 days. But I think the big general opportunity right now is to help rationalize and consolidate the industry. One of the unique parts of this industry, one of the reasons I got into it, is it is funded by individuals and family offices. And even the funds that exist, the 10 to 15 funds, are funded by individuals and family offices. There's no institutional money and there's no private equity. Typically, private equity firms, and there are hundreds of them, as you know, they are the people who come in and rationalize an industry. They take the inefficient companies and bolt them on to the efficient companies and make them bigger, train them how to become public companies. And not RTO, tiny micro cap public companies, but real public companies. And that opportunity now exists for us. And one of the things I'm out here doing in California on behalf of one of the companies I'm involved in is trying to do that with them, trying to make them bigger by finding merger opportunities, basically. Because that's now what has to happen in this industry. We don't need hundreds of small companies. We need, handfuls of big, dynamic, vertically integrated companies, at least in states where vertical integration is allowed. So I'd encourage people to look for opportunities to invest with very capable management teams who have their own house in order, who are ready to help start clean up this industry.
Excellent. I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs appreciate just how important what you just said about the roll-ups and the M&As. Let's say, for example, a company like Atria, MO, they're not going to waste their time buying anything that's under $1 billion because it's just not going to move the needle for them. So if you could do a roll up and consolidation, then you actually have real exit strategies. And yes, being a Canadian and knowing a little bit about RTOs, I get where you're coming from. So
Yeah.
anyways, I'm going to bounce now to Ted.
Yep.
And Ted, being a securities lawyer, being a lawyer, I think an attorney, you can appreciate this. I'm sure you'll be able to help us answer this question. I'd like to know, how do you protect IP in a federally illegal industry?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, and IP is certainly a huge portion and probably an increasing portion of the valuable assets of the companies in this industry. There are a lot of ways to protect IP, and I could spend an entire day talking about that, but I will give you sort of a thumbnail sketch that maybe has some tips that could help. So all IP is, when people say IP initially, they think of usually like patents filed with the federal government or trademarks filed with the federal government. There is an entire world of intellectual property that transcends that and does not necessarily require the federal government's approval. On the hemp side of things, you're getting some more latitude at federal, trademark registrations and things like that. But what I would encourage people to do is, one, for their trademarks, protecting their logos and their brand names and things like that, look to the state protection, because I know at least on the West Coast, up and down the West Coast, there's plenty of ways you can file for protection in California or wherever related to that, and it doesn't necessarily have the national scope that you would with federally, but it's better than being completely unprotected. The other thing that I would encourage people to think about is that there's this concept called trade secrets, which does not require filing with the federal government to protect. Instead, it's the opposite of that. It's not about public disclosure and then protection by the government. It's about how well you keep your secrets to yourself and what sort of procedures you've put in place to protect them. The classic example of that is sort of Coke's recipe for Coca-Cola, or things like that. A lot of people are developing recipes for making products out of cannabis and things like that, but it can even be broader than that. It can include operating procedures and manufacturing procedures and things like that. And so most of my clients, I really encourage them to focus on the trade secrets and putting into place the compliance mechanisms to make sure that your trade secrets are protected and defensible if they ever get challenged. So that would be my recommendation, is sort of the state approach for trademark protection, and then focus really heavily on confidentiality and trade secrets and things like that.
That's great. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, we're coming towards the end. We've got a couple of minutes left. So I'm going to give, starting with Kevin, I'm going to give you an opportunity in a minute or so just to summarize, or to say anything you would like to say, or anything you'd like to add to the conversation.
Yeah. So in addition to sort of regulatory compliance, one of the things that I was surprised at when I got into this industry, and I'm on a number of boards, so you won't be able to tell which one I'm talking about. It's certainly not talking about the public company, because they're pretty organized in the corporate governance front. But there's this thing called corporate governance, and sort of having policies and procedures in a company. And I've been on the board of a public company before. I've been in a large Wall Street investment bank where they are, have pretty good corporate governance. And one of the things that struck me as being odd and needing a lot of improvement is a lot of internal processes, like making big investments, making big commitments are still done by the seat of people's pants, without writing up, if you want to go buy something and it's, $20 million, people just kind of have a dinner and talk about it, and they go buy it. They don't necessarily have the money. They might have to go raise the money. And what I'd like to see, and what I'm encouraging in the companies I'm involved in, is have an actual process where you write an investment up in an investment committee memo, and you circulate that, the senior management and to the board, and you get all the brains looking at it, and you get a formal approval to spend anything over, I don't know, $1 million, 500,000, the number can vary depending on the circumstance of that company. And they would also look at things like, do we have this money in the bank, or do we have to raise the money to actually fund that investment? Because if you look back at 2019, most companies got themselves into a jam by, there was this thing called the green rush. People went out and they were buying dispensaries with big notes that came due in a year or two because they didn't have the money, or they were buying manufacturing facilities. I mean, you name it, very large numbers. And then when the capital market shut down, and they shut down very quickly and very firmly, they were unable and basically had big liquidity problems. Now, most companies worked their way out of that, but it was a very costly, because typically you had to go to the party and negotiate with them and issue stock and cash, to settle the obligation. So I'd like to see a lot better corporate governance. And frankly, you can't go public until you get your house in order with respect to both regulatory and corporate governance, in my opinion.
Agreed. We've seen already a few disasters in the public sector. I won't name any companies that didn't get that part right. And Ted, sorry to rush you, a minute or so, if you have anything you would like to add.
I'll make it really quick. So first of all, I got to say, the number of times people come to me with handshake deals for $1 million, $2 million, $10 million investments is crazy. So please don't do that. You'll end up in our litigation department really fast if you do that. But the second thing I wanted to say is I actually kind of wanted to answer the question that you asked Kevin before. And so now I'll just do that real fast. What are the trends and what am I seeing in the industry? Usually when people ask me that, they're expecting me to say oh, is processing or cultivation or retail, or is that where it's headed? Where's the big? What I think? I think the things that both of you mentioned are really where the growth opportunities are. One, bringing professional management to these industries of people who have experience in other industries, who can bring that expertise here, who also understand and sort of get the social content and the benefits to the community of this. And so recruiting that sort of professional level expertise, I think is probably the biggest thing that you can do. And then the second is I do totally agree with sort of the corporate governance and building the best board that you can around these companies as well, because in order to grow and thrive, I think you need to do that. And I just want to echo one other point. I am actually seeing a huge trend towards consolidation in the industry, and I think that's kind of the next big play, is a bunch of these fragmented smaller businesses that have built a good reputation within the states that they're in because of the regulatory environments are going to start rolling into larger umbrella companies and seeking liquidity on the capital markets that way. So anyway, that's the real fast version, but thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, no, that was excellent. And I'm going to very strongly suggest to Brad that you guys both be invited back. And I would love to do an extended panel if you guys both feel so inclined, because to me, this is among the most 20 minutes and very extremely valuable 20 minutes just spending listening to you gentlemen. And I hope the audience appreciates the pearls of wisdom that you've cast to them. So anyways, time for me to move on back to Dr. Dave, double PhD. And if you guys ever want some, you in the audience, if you ever want to find out an interesting backstory, you should check out his bio. I mean, it's actually incredible. Dave, Dr. Dave, you should really write a book about that someday. Anyways, over to you, Dave.
I thank you so much, Sean. I really do appreciate the nice words. And that is the goal one day, in a couple more years. Also, John, I just want to say you did a great job monitoring that panel. And to the last two speakers, Ted and Kevin, thank you so much. I also learned a lot as well, too. And I really think John hit the nail on the head. 20 minutes is just not enough time. And the information you gave was so insightful to so many people. And I really hope that people took down the notes. Kevin and Ted, just please make sure you check the question and answer part on the bottom of your screen to make sure in case you have any questions. If you want to put any of your key LinkedIn information or any other key contact information, please feel free to include it in the chat room. With that being said, we're going to move on to our next panel. And our next panel, the topic is getting out of the weeds, leveraging star power, media assets, and strategic partnerships in cannabis. This is a very hot topic because it's not as simple as people think it is to get a celebrity to sit here and to endorse you or to be an influencer for you. There's really more to it. And we have Darian Payne here of Cannabis Venture Partners, who is actually going to do his own intro. And Darren, I'll let you introduce your panelists because you are the moderator, and we all look forward for you, for all of us to learn a little bit more about what it takes to actually leverage star power. So the floor is yours, Darren. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the intro, David. Once again, my name is Darian Payne. I am the COO or Chief Operating Officer here at CVP. That's Cannabis Venture Partners. Just a quick high level about CVP. What we are is, what our mission is to help our clients win big in the cannabis industry. We help them by navigating their potential pitfalls, and also as well as observing their strengths and capitalizing off of those sorts of things. As vague as that sounds, it's only because we have an expert in almost every realm of cannabis working as a departmental head to help us to navigate these kind of treacherous waters. Give me just a moment. We work with executive leadership, corporate structuring, business development, leveraging technology, which happens to be my personal favorite, accounting and finance, government consulting, and community advocacy, another very strong point for us. Strategic partnership development, what we're talking about today. Marketing and branding, also something we're going to speak on today. Operations and licensing. These are just some of the offerings that CVP has out there. Now, today, what we're speaking on most specifically is leveraging star power, media assets, and strategic partnerships in cannabis. And I wanted to give a little bit of applause to David for mentioning that it's not as simple as throwing out the person that's on a Wheaties box and expecting them to be able to sell a product. The marketing landscape has changed in general across the board, and that way of advertising and selling products is gone. And it's gone even further away from cannabis. You can't take a Wheaties approach. You need to have these actual connections, strong relationships, and an understanding of these niche core groups that you're looking to sell to. I come from a film background, and we always say niches get riches. So the ability to observe these things and to capitalize on data, marketing data, purchasing, any sort of specific data that we can isolate and extract information from is perfect for what we do, and it allows us to help our clients so much better. So without any more ado, I'm going to kick it over to Cletus Mack, who is our CEO, but more than that, he is a friend and mentor, but he's also a Grammy-nominated legendary rapper. He's multi-platinum selling a rapper as well, and he helps us to communicate and to work on our strategic partnerships with a multitude of different clients in both the entertainment world, in athletics, as well as politics and policy. So without any further ado, I'm going to kick it over to Cletus Mack, who's sitting near me.
Hello, everyone. How y'all doing today? Pleasure to be here. Just wanted to talk to y'all about the difference of having a celebrity ambassador and an influencer. Now, what we do with CVP, we don't just have an ambassador. Ambassador is somebody you bring in and say, hey, you put their name up. Hey, we have Snoop Dogg and he's a part of this and that and this and that. But you just see that picture, that one-time picture, and you see the stamp on the brand. And yeah, it works to a certain degree. But what we do is we bring in the celebrities. Like for me, myself, I go as far as to be the CEO of the company, and also bring the other celebrities along with me. And I make sure that they follow through all the way. So you might have a celebrity who is the name of something, but they're not posting it. They're not putting it on their IG. They're not hashtagging anything. And what we do with CVP is we make sure that they follow through the whole process. We make sure that everybody is totally invested in the whole process to make sure that the business side works. And it's not just a quick green and go. Like the cannabis business doesn't work that way. It's not something that you can just jump into and win. You have to really know this business. And what we did with this company in particular, we strategically put together all of the places, like far as real estate, far as licensing, far as celebrity, every single thing that we need to do, we put it all together to make sure that we are the go-to people and we have everything on board with us. So we're basically like the standard, like, and we're working with the biggest companies in the business right now, the biggest brands, and they are very comfortable with working with us because we're very consistent on what we do. When we make sure that we are consistently making sure that we work all the way through every single platform that it takes for this gang. And a lot of times what we have, the problem is people end up being green on the green. And when you're green on the green, you don't really have the knowledge and the know-how to execute your next step. You could put a whole lot of money in this business and end up stuck. And that's what a lot of people end up facing. And what we do is we make sure that you never come in contact with that. We make sure that you feel educated all the way throughout the whole process. And also with the celebrities that we attach to you, we make sure that they are acting and not just a face. They are really working the product. They are really moving and treating it like their business, because we make sure that they are a part of the business. And that's strategically, that's what we do to make sure that we can make sure it separates us from everyone else, pretty much. And with no further ado, Money B, are you involved? Are you here?
I'm here.
Hey.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Absolutely, everybody. We got Money B coming in right now. He is one of our managers and consultants at CVP. He is also a multi-platinum selling artist, if you can't tell by that mean looking plaque section in the back of his room there. He's also from the legendary rap group Digital Underground, which is great lineage, but more than that, I think Money B has a certain level of expertise when it comes to speaking to both realms. So without any more, I'd leave it to you, Money B, please.
Thank you, Darian. Hello, everyone. So, like Darian said, the accolades, Grammy nominated. We've sold tens of millions of albums worldwide. And, I've been in the industry for 32 years, but if you look around today, Digital Underground is still relevant, and you can see it in our, placement in the new Coming to America movie, being mentioned in the television series Blackish. And it's not by accident. It's because, or I would say myself personally, through all aspects of our career, I've kind of been hands-on, and cultivated the relationships. So, with CVP, I'm not just an ambassador or a face of the company. I'm actually, a part of the company. So, I'm not just going to be the guy that's, like you said, I'm not the guy in the Wheaties box. I'm actually doing the work. And there's nothing like taking a business call about Digital Underground with Digital Underground. And that's what I do. I'm in the trenches. I'm gonna do everything that it takes to close it and get it done. I've managed the Digital Underground brand for several years. Had been a part of and have managed, video production companies and been involved in film, marketing, commercial, stage, everything like that. So I feel like, I'm perfect to help facilitate and fulfill your needs when it comes to new media. I actually sit on the board for a streaming company called Vire Streaming Network. It's fairly new, but it's in 116 countries, and we have 13 niche channels. We're also launching a channel and platform specifically catering towards cannabis and hemp products called Cannavid TV. And it's
so
perfect.
Is it fair to say that you understand quite well how to create your own opportunities as well as leverage what already exists in the market of the traditional ways of marketing these products?
Yeah, because, I paying attention, like, sometimes you can just, like you said, if I was only willing to lend my name and just say, hey, go ahead and paste my picture there, anything that I get involved with, I research and I find out exactly how that company or how that process works. So, if I go in the room and you start asking me questions, I know about the business that I'm promoting. You know what I mean? So I'm fully abreast of the operation and not just the cosmetics of anything that I do. So, like I said, with Vire and Cannabis, we welcome, the cannabis community. Obviously, Cannabis TV is specifically for, but even at Vire, the product placement and the ad and marketing opportunities are endless. And I know I'm not sure how much time I have left, but I'm not sure if David Hill, who's actually the co-owner of Vire and Cannabis, if he's on. David, are you there?
Yes, I am. How's everybody doing? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Doing great. Welcome, David.
We can hear you. So I kind of wanted Dave to really quick talk about another aspect of what we do, which is Cash Crop Today. Dave, you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, so around 3 years ago, we created a media platform called Cash Crop Today Media. Also, I'm working closely with Darian, Cletus, and Money B within regard to this. We created the business side of what cannabis and hemp is: growing stocks, raising funds, basically like a whole resource. Currently, right now, cashcroptoday.com. Everybody can go download it or log on to it. We have around 600,000 people that read that website a month. It talks about all the publicly traded companies that are in cannabis, who's high, who's low. We have a bunch of different levels of societies that and communities that, we have some services that go along with what Cletus, Darren, and Money B is saying. And also we have news shows that we're building out for Cannabis. The website is cashcroptoday.com. For the person that was just in the chat that said, what's the website again? Yeah, so realistically, marketing cannabis brands, it's a tough thing to do nowadays, especially with all the rules. You can't do regular Facebook target marketing, Instagram target marketing. You have to be real careful, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to be more creative. Partnering with talent, influencers that actually control those Instagram posts, et cetera, more so is so important. As well as if you are a company that is public on the OTC markets or OTB markets, doing curated content, curated articles, being on multiple different platforms, or just building up that community. Currently, we've built a community of 72,000 emails and people that's actually engaging with Cash Crop Today, not to mention the 600,000 people that read it per month. And we're growing out. We have one coming up in April called Foodie Dispensary. Foodie Dispensary is all foods, meaning we already have over 300 different recipes on how to cook with cannabis, all the way from gourmet meals to snacks for events and parties. And we have another platform that we're cultivating right now, curating right now, is about growth. And it goes from the agriculture to the farming to all of that type of stuff like that. So definitely we have various different places that we can plug into any companies and everything. And we have a history of doing it for 22 years.
Not to cut you off, that's great information. We've got Dave's website and info pinged in there, and you could also get into contact with anybody from CBP to further this discussion. But we are coming close on time, and we've got two last guests, but one special, very, very special guest to have speak here. He's the co-founder and owner of Leaves of Legends, a cannabis brand, and a two-time Grammy-winning artist and multi-platinum selling artist from the group Bone Thugs and Harmony, as a Cleveland native, I consider him one of the greats. And I'm quite a fan, and he's a great mentor as well as co-founder. Give it up, everybody, for Crazy Bone. Welcome him. And I'm going to leave the floor to him. Craig, please take it.
Yeah, man, basically, I'm gonna be real quick. You know what I'm saying? First of all, thanks for bringing me back to this forum. You know what I'm saying? I had a good time last time, and it's good to be back in behalf of League of Legends. Shout out to everybody on here that I, you know what I'm saying, that I'm used to seeing on a daily basis. Money B, Cletus Mack, Darian, Liz, you know what I'm saying, the whole team, whole squad, Joseph, what's happening. Just want to let everybody know, you know, that Leagues of Legend is a premium cannabis brand. And our main focus is, you know, on the culture and the community. Just to be real short, when I say that, I have a partnership with the Cleveland School of Cannabis, and we have a scholarship program to where we help we choose minorities or people from the community where I'm from back in Cleveland, and you know, we give them a free scholarship and put them through this program to give them knowledge of the whole cannabis industry and have them learn, you know, like the different techniques or whatever it is, you know, grower or owner dispensaries. They get all this knowledge, you know, so they'll be able to go out and work in this field. This very, very rising very rapidly, you know what I'm saying? So also I'm excited to announce that you know, in anticipation for 420, we are launching our cannabis brand in other states. And we're like growing very rapidly right now in collaborations with Cookies as well. You know what I'm saying? Moving into different areas with like Oklahoma and Washington and Colorado. Also, I have an album coming out entitled Leagues of Legend. You know, it's kind of like the soundtrack for the cannabis, you know what I'm saying? So while you indulge it in the cannabis, you got a soundtrack to play along with it. You know what I'm saying? I'm giving you everything you need for that, you know what I'm saying? And you know, the whole album is dedicated, it's 12 songs on the album, basically signature cannabis songs. If you're a Bone Thugs and Harmony fan, then you know how much we have been advocates of cannabis throughout our career. We always dedicated songs or 2 or 3 to cannabis on each project. And so the album is dedicated to the cannabis culture, man, and got a lot of classic songs on there. So before I get up out of here, just want everybody let y'all know we are looking to raise capital for what we're doing. You know, we're looking for strategic investors and partners. This is a great opportunity to come in, you know, like be a part of what we're doing. Cause like I said, we're reaching back into the community. We're doing charitable events and everything, like basically giving back. That's something I really never seen any cannabis brands do, but like giving back to the community and for the people that really risk their lives and, you know, like put in work to like bring this to the mainstream. I feel like a lot of this money should be going back to the people that were penalized for using this for so many years, you know, and of course we help bring this to the mainstream, so it's only right. So that's all I wanted to say. Like I said, thank y'all for having me, and yeah, if y'all interested in, you know what I'm saying, talking to us about the brand, get at me or get at like any one of these people you see on here, Money B, Darian, Cletus, anybody you see on here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you mentioned coming on as well too. We got about 30 seconds left. So Darian, let me ask you this: the last 30 seconds, what do you want to tell the audience here today?
Yeah. What I'd like to say is that the marketing in cannabis can be tricky. It can be treacherous. Conventional.
Sorry, Darian. I do. Let's have Liz close us out. Sorry about that. We have Liz, and our esteemed attorney partner, who's also a civil rights activist. You know, she's on the front lines of social equity and doing all kinds of amazing things. Liz, why don't you close us out, please?
All right, thank you for that. And I'm sorry, Darian. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. I just wanted to say social equity is so important. It's a huge piece in cannabis investing. And if morals is not the only thing that drives you, there's just 2 reasons why you should care about social equity before we close out this group today. And it's that the strategic partnerships and social equity will make your business robust. There is no business that won't benefit from making sure that you form those strategic partnerships throughout the communities that are underserved by the criminalization of cannabis. And the fact that you promoting the legalization, and we have a lot of work to do to continue legalizing this business, is only going to increase the eligibility for business partners and the market. And secondly, and I know Mr. Ted Bernhardt spoke to this already, but the compliance will make or break your business, or at least cause you to miss opportunities. So if nothing else, the compliance aspect of making sure that your business is compliant with all licensing requirements is the second benefit to making sure that you are caring about social equity. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but thank you for the opportunity to be here and for listening to our panel.
And Liz, thank you so much for bringing that up as well too, because social equity is very important. Everyone, all our panels, please make sure you look at the question and answer part. I know we just had someone give a question for John Nemanik from the previous panel. Darian, Joseph, Liz, I see you all already put your information in the chat room. Feel free to do it again. And honestly, it's all about helping each other around this community and really thinking about the bigger picture overall. Very powerful stuff. Thank you so much for being on. And we're going to move on to our last panel discussion before we go on to the investor pitch deck competition. So the last panel topic is, how is a government grant funded project assisting minority businesses? And I myself, actually, Dr. David, will be the moderator for this. Very quick background about myself. If you're just joining us, Doctor of Physical Therapy, Doctor of Healthcare Management, been in cannabis since 2009, 7 different cannabis companies in 5 different states. Something that's really important today is that the people, our speakers that we have today are actually part of NABEDC, which is funded by the United States Department of Congress. The Bureau of Minority Business, funded by the United States Department of Commerce, Bureau of Minority Business Development Agency. And their goal is to provide no-cost business development services to American Indians, Alaska Natives, and Native Hawaiians located in Arizona, Utah, Nevada, and the Navajo Nation. Their direct services include resources for starting and/or growing your business, assessing capital, and locating and bidding on opportunities, market resources, export assistance, manufacturing resources, and other services as well too. With that being said, we have several people here today who are panelists. So we have Eugene Robinson, Giovanni Starks, Carolyn Graves, and Peter Schwartz. Because of our time limit, what I'd like to do is I'd like to start with Eugene Robinson. And if y'all could just give a 45-second introduction about yourself and your background. So we'll start with Eugene first, and then we'll go proceed with Giovanni next.
Hey, how you doing? Can you hear
Great,
me?
Eugene. You got 45 seconds to do an introduction on yourself and on your background for the audience, please.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm Eugene Robinson. I am the co-founder and COO of Midwest Buds, located in Arizona. A little bit about my background. I have over 20 years of experience in supply chain, financial services, and working with, I was working with Intel, running their global supply chain for a couple of years, and also worked in the commercial space doing small businesses for companies like Bank of America and Chase. So that's a little bit about me, and we'll tell you a little bit more as we go along in the process here. Oh, can you not see me? He's muted. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you. I would say, is Giovanni with us today?
Yeah, Giovanni's here as well.
Giovanni, I will say both you guys are completely blacked out with the way you got the sun behind you, but we can see you fine. Just so you know. So no, it's all good. So Giovanni, in 45 seconds, let's talk about your background, please.
Yes, my name is Giovanni Starks. I am the CEO of Midwest Buds. I have over 15 years of sales experience, management, and coaching. I used to be a supervisor for McKesson Specialty Health. Also, I am an up-and-coming music artist in Phoenix, Arizona. And that's pretty much my background. I graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. with a degree in physical education, pre-law, and coaching. And that's pretty much it. That's the nail in the coffin for me.
You know, perfect. You did that in 39 seconds, my friend. I appreciate that. So I'd like to ask Karen Lynn Graves, who's a project director of NABC, to give a 45-second background on yourself first, please. Thank you. You're muted, Karen.
I'm not now.
Yep.
Karen Lynn Graves. I'm the project director for NABC. So in my role, just overseeing activities, grant funded activities, and I'm joined here by my colleague, Peter Schwartz.
And Peter, why don't you go next and end up with us?
Good afternoon, everyone. My background has been in government my whole life. I've been working in Indian country for about 25 years with economic development, job creation, and helping them assist to get into the cannabis and hemp industry. And Midwest Buzz is one of our clients, and we're here to support them.
Great. And I appreciate you both being here. And I think this is great for everyone that is listening and attending from all around the world, that Midwest Buzz is a client of NABC. So I know this is a very loaded topic, and I know we only have about 15 minutes or so. So I like to ask this first question to Karen and to Peter directly. And this first question is this: could you list an example of a funded project by the government that's assisting minority businesses? And can you tell us how the project came about, pretty much, and what your role was in that? And if we could answer it within about 4 minutes so we can ask a couple more questions, that'd be great.
Sure. So let me start with how NABC got started.
That'd be awesome.
Okay, so about 4 or 5 years ago, the U.S. Department of Commerce, Bureau of Minority Business Development, started hearing a lot of talks in the background from different communities about not getting the services that they were looking for. So more specifically, our American Indians, Alaska Natives, and Native Hawaiians. So the MBDA did what's referred to as a tribal consultation and started getting feedback to find out what could we do a little bit different. So what came as a result of that was we need to have more presence. So there was a grant opportunity that went out, and our office, and we are operated or overseen by the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We went after this grant and we were able to receive it. So essentially what we do under our grant, we call it NABC, but we provide business development services. So that's everything from helping to find money, different types of loan, investment opportunities, to just business education from startup and beyond. So more specifically with ours, we ended up serving veterans, our youth, women, immigrants, disabled individuals, a whole gamut of different services that we're providing to all. So essentially, again, it all stems under MBDA, for Minority Business Development Agency.
Great. And then and you said that Eugene and Giovanni, they're clients of yours, correct?
They are clients of ours. And
so could you do this really quick for the audience? Did you find them or did they find you? And like, how that interaction go? Like, tell our audience, like, how do they find out about NABC and how that whole interaction went through? That'd be great.
So they are clients, direct clients of Peter's, and I'm going to go ahead and let Peter explain how we found each other.
So Midwest Buzz, they reached out to us and explained what they were trying to get into the hemp industry with the legalization that was coming up of it. And they were already into the cannabis industry, and just asked for our help and advice on how to do things. So obviously with the government, that's each state is different what they have. And so we're trying to help them get into the underprivileged areas, the opportunity zones, these type of things, to conduct their business, to help in the rural areas. And then we're here, of course, here to support them and with trying to find investors and these type of things.
If I may, I'm sorry, let me add one more piece to this, because I want to make sure we're connecting the dots. Another thing that we're assisting them with is relationships with different tribes. We know that we need to have economic development, activities within our different tribal communities. And what better way than having their product? So it's not a secret that, you may have hemp, you may have cannabis, but you also have the wraparound services. We have agriculture companies who provide, different fertilizers. I mean, you have packaging. It's a whole lot of different services that are provided. So, but we're honored, like I shared, to have them as our clients. So we're able to help connect those dots with them.
So Eugene, and my question to you is, Eugene, what were the first steps that you took with Nabedsi?
The first step that we took was reaching out to see what type of services they can help us with. And then we sat down with Peter, who's an awesome guy, and kind of, like you said, laid out our process and what we were looking to do. And he has helped us out with relationships, like Karen said, with the Indian tribes out here in Nevada. Unfortunately, due to COVID, those talks kind of slowed down. So we're hoping to get those ramped back up this year. And yeah, just getting us into spaces that a lot of other companies can't get into otherwise.
And I don't know if you said this to the audience. How long have you been working with Peter and Karen for?
Peter, what, 3 years? 2.5 years, 3 years?
3 years.
Oh, great. So let me ask you guys then both, and Karen or Peter, you can answer this question first, is what would be, Peter and Karen, for people that should be reaching out to you? What would be like the top 3 things they should think about Nabedsi and say, wait, we should call Peter and Karen?
Number one, if you are looking to even get started in any type of business industry, I would say connect with us. If you're
industry agnostic then, correct?
Industry agnostic.
Perfect.
We are open to absolutely everyone. We help everyone. The other thing too is capital. We know all businesses need money. That's why we have this Cannabis Investment Forum today. They need money. The other thing is those connections and those relationships. That's one thing that our office is known for, is knowing how to connect those dots to different industry professionals. Even by way of you, by way of our partner here, Roderick, with us today, just utilizing those different relationships so we can help connect the dots. So those are our top 3 things that we can do.
Okay, great. And Eugene and Giovanni, what would you like to add on top of that as well too, if anything that Karen just said?
For us, what I think I would like to add is that working with Nabedsi, it has given us an opportunity, like my business partner said, to get into those opportunity zones and speak with these tribal leaders on another level. Especially in Arizona, we all know the casino industry is dying in Arizona. There's not a whole lot of it. So with those people, they have to figure out other ways to generate revenue. And coming into their area, being able to provide a quality product that can either help with quality building materials, educating them on the uses of cannabis and the uses of hemp and what it can all do, as far as making affordable building material, hempcrete, concrete, whatever. It's something that they can definitely grasp onto and make money outside of the casino industry. And at the same time, we can provide services to other Arizonians that may be looking for a job, assisting with inmates coming out of prison and stuff like that. It's just a wide range of us trying to help everyone around us and succeed at the best.
Great. Now, we do have about 8 minutes left, and Nabedsi, I probably is a very new concept to a lot of people on this call and at this event right now. It's also probably new to a lot of investors and accredited investors that we have here listening. So Karen and Peter, I'd like to give you the floor for the next 3 or 4 minutes to really talk more about Nabedsi, how people can find you, interact with you, how you can deal with investors as well too. So I'd like to kind of give you an open forum for 3 or 4 minutes, and then I'll cut you off because I'll have one last question for everyone. All right?
Okay, we definitely appreciate that. So the first way to get a hold of us is by our website, nabedsi.com. So www.nabedc.com has all of our information on there. Specifically on the investor side, for those who are looking to invest and they want to, they can come to us. We can help, again, make those different connections to the people that we're working with. Right now, currently, we're working with the company that does humate. So that's a natural fertilizer, so we can get them connected. Peter, you want to add on to that?
Yeah, the humate is actually something that NASA is going to be using to send up to the moon. It's a natural fertilizer. It comes from the coal part of it, and it comes out of the Navajo Nation in New Mexico.
Other services, and you mentioned them earlier on, you know, we have our, of course, our elevator pitches, everybody. So I'll kind of tone it down just a little bit. But again, back to the money, back to the wraparound services. We even assist with marketing, helping with websites, helping with getting emails set up. And we're going to talk to our friends here in a second about that as well. But we just want to make sure that our clients are always putting their best foot forward. Our overarching goal, if you will, is economic development, all these different communities that we're serving. So at the end of the day, you know, if you have someone who is, you know, like our clients here who are, you know, with cannabis and everything else, we want to make sure that we get packaging people involved, artists involved, website developers involved. We want to get as many people involved to help that company. We believe you cannot do things on your own. It takes a community to lift everybody up. So that's pretty much our philosophy within the Betsy. And again, we do serve, you know, our American Indian, Alaska Native, Native Hawaiians, but we serve all minorities because essentially at the end of the day, we're all helping each other.
And Karen, I don't think you said it. How many years has Betsy been around for?
We've only been around for 2 years, since 2019. And so my background kind of mirrors Peter's a little bit in that I also come from a government background. So I used to work for Governor Napolitano's one of her projects in Arizona. So, I mean, we come from a very unique background in terms of business development services. So I've been doing business and professional development services for more than 25 years now.
Great.
And I've been working with under grants with the Minority Business Development Agency for about 13 years now.
And if I'm correct, you all help people all throughout all 50 states. That's correct?
That is correct.
Excellent. And now we do have a couple minutes left. And Eugene and Giovanni, if you all been working with Peter and Karen for a while, could you please talk about the experience you've had or any words of encouragement for other listeners here today, other people that need the help of the Betsy? Could you give a little bit of insight, maybe some words of encouragement?
Yeah.
So that'd be great.
Yeah, working with the Betsy, one thing that we've learned as partners is that you got to have all your I's dotted and your T's crossed when you come to the Betsy. You have to have a plan of attack. You can't go in it blindly. You have to know where you want to execute, what areas you want to touch, and what you need them to do. So you have to have a concise plan so that you can direct Betsy as to what you need. And I think me and my business partner, ourselves, we've kind of put it in their hands with helping us with getting into these meetings with tribal leaders and stuff like that, which has been a very insightful because then we get to learn about what their struggles are, what their pain points are. And then where we can come in to alleviate those pain points and try to generate revenue for them and their people as well. You want to touch on it a little bit?
Yeah, no, just to kind of piggyback off that, like Giovanni said, they've opened up doors, that no one else can open up. So we're pretty much one of one in the industry right now because we're the only ones that are backed by a government agency like this. So it's pretty rare to have an agency like this to have your back. And we're very grateful for the relationship that we've created with them.
And I will say, just for myself, as an investor and as someone that represents many investors, I think this is great, and I'm happy y'all were here today because never heard of the Betsy, didn't know that was even around. And at our own company, UCS Advisors, we do get a lot of phone calls for people that need help, need assistance, and looking for other programs that can help them assess them. And what I'm hearing a lot is also a lot of, kind of like Karen and Peter, you guys are doing also a lot of mentorship.
Absolutely.
Which is so important in this industry. I know we only have 2 minutes left. So the first thing I'm going to say is, please make sure you put your information in the chat room. Okay. Please make sure people can see that. I already saw a few people pop up asking for last names, asking for contact information. Also, please make sure you check the question and answer because I believe there's 1 or 2 questions already popped up for y'all.
Okay.
And with that being said, Karen and Peter, for the last 90 seconds, the floor is yours. What is the lasting message you want to leave the audience here today?
The lasting message. Come to us for all business development services. That's the lasting message. We can provide connections and wraparound services. We don't pretend to know everything, but like I said earlier, we have those connections so we can help people, make sure that they get connected in industry. So we would appreciate it if you have any questions whatsoever about business development, specifically even now in the cannabis industry, and what we can do to provide services, wraparound support for you, let us know. And we'll be sure to make sure we answer. I see all the questions too, and we'll certainly put all of our information in there.
And then Eugene and Giovanni, you have any last parting words for the audience at all?
Yeah, I do. We need money. We need investment money.
Well, I will say this, and I'm going to take a message out of John Domanic, and I'm going to take a message from Matt Norgren, is that remember, you need to be prepared. And what we tell all our clients here at UCS Advisors, failure to plan is planning to fail.
Definitely.
And you really need to always think those 3 or 4 steps ahead. Peter and Karen, thank you so much. And thank you for introducing this entire crowd of over 250 plus participants to let them be educated about Nabetsi. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Midwest Buds, wishing you all the best of luck. Keep up the good work. And that wraps up the end of our panel selection.